right, here we are, Stellar Horizons. Tuesday, getting pretty late into the morning. So, what's happened so far? Well, players have spread out with their REs and some of their CVs and whatnot, and are beginning to work towards even colonizing some initial exploration. Someone pointed out something interesting. There's a whole list of ships and locations that they start at. I read my way down here, the campaign set up the first 13 points, then somehow just didn't see this because it wasn't, in those 13 points or whatever. I don't know. But some of these ships were supposed to be in transit. Some of them would actually be at locations. It allows you to jump into the game a little faster. More importantly, there's a significant crunch on players as to whether or not they can make their tech expenditures. And that's having an impact. I don't know how much it's going to do to balance. I hope not much, but definitely you're in a better position to have ships spread out all over doing stuff right from the beginning. And it saves you a lot of cash that you could be spent, that I've had to spend to bolster my tech, to hold on to cards and whatnot, which maybe has caused some decisions to be a little worse than others. This was just a mistake by me not seeing what was there. This is sort of mixed. This leads then into a bunch of optional rules here. There's also this more futuristic end, which maybe we'll play with that because we got a slow start, but I don't know if it's that big a deal. So the normal end is in 2500. You start rolling for the end of the game. But it's just a 1% per turn again, just like the conflict thing. That's another place where an advantage will come in. The players who kind of have an advantage for conflict, the Praetorians, the Syndicate, they're going to get to open up hostilities a little quicker relative to the start, because the start's a little slower, so there's more of a chain, but it's this 1% per turn cumulative, so it's somewhat problematic there. And the designer came back with something about the 0.5 movement rate. I don't understand it. It's got to do with the rounding rule and whatnot, but it's still, you end up moving faster than light. And honestly, the game doesn't make sense without some sort of faster than light communication. So once you have that, might as well have a little bit of faster than light drive as well. At least that's how I see it. But yeah, it takes it away from something that I saw as particularly special about a small handful of games. And the idea of a game that could handle, that could present a realistic view of how this sort of expansion would happen. And, I think it would be more along the lines of, got this weird orange coming. It's not the noise. The noise is something else, I think. This weird orange up there. I don't know what the hell it is. It's like glowing. Anyway, The idea of a game that handled, that kind of situation in a believable fashion, that like a faction, country, organization, whatever, could maintain some sort of cohesiveness over distances that, require 40, 50 years to travel through. Wow. That would be an interesting view, right? Like, how would you do that? What would be involved in it? What would keep it together? I don't know what you could make the argument for that would work that way. Like, religions don't work that way, right? Like, a religion spends 10 years, 15 years cut off from the rest of that religion, and they start making up their own neat shit, if they're truly cut off. Just all kinds of facets. It would be really hard. So what I'm thinking is the game would just be a completely different game. It would be one in which, like, I mean, even the generational, even the ships, which wouldn't have to be, well, they kind of would have to be multi-generation, right? I mean, to some extent. Even the ships, which would be moving people, and I mean, the idea of demand for goods being known, right? That would take 50 years or whatever, If a CV has a multiplier of 5, it takes 50 years to transit from here to here, right? Now, the REs are faster, and obviously you have light speed communication. So communications would arrive within 10 years, of things that are like a hex away, within the time frame of the game. But again, they're not going to pay attention to them. They're not going to feel like they're required to follow these, because they're not getting anything out of it, right? Unless you're looking at like a flow of new settlers coming in regularly and whatnot. Now, some of that is abstracted away. So like colony growth includes migrants who are not on ships that are there, and systems that are fully explored are kind of considered to have bases that aren't controlled by the players on them and whatnot, because they get demand, although they don't provide any supply. So I'm just thinking there would be a very, very different kind of game that would have a totally different focus, and might not be anywhere near the fun. Like, this has the fun of the Stellar Horizons game, but it does feel a lot less grounded because of it. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I try to sleep again. Now it's about 4:30 a.m. on Wednesday. The week seems to pass so quickly. It's like, I realize why. It's because I play Raid more than I used to work. First economic phase, or the economic phase, settlement, growth, and migration. There are no settlements on the board. I believe that means there will not be any growth or migration happening. I hope I'm right. So it's time to arrive. And we got a couple here that are coming in, and everything else, and this one, and everything else just drops by one. Currently, the amount of time that I've been away from the game, and it's not that long, I was playing, within the last 24 hours, right? I'm already feeling kind of, I don't know how I'm going to handle things anymore. I don't remember what's going on. It's a real problem with my play pause type schedule, but there's nothing else I can do. Anyway, we're on the building ships, and that's always a troublesome thing to figure out. And I got to relearn my processes again. Part of it is the tech tree, the cards, all that. It's making, the tech tree especially is starting to get more complicated, right? But also my choices of ships, all the things. It's not clear how much money I need, to be able to hold on to cards and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that's hard to remember. Praetorians, at least, with a decent amount of tech in reserve, right? I decided to blow a lot of money. I'm buying a CV, a couple of these, and an RE as well. We'll see what other people are doing. But I think we're getting to the point where, yeah, we can start spending the money. Yeah, not with everyone. The givers, they don't have a lot of tech. But with people who've collected decent amounts of tech, they can kind of guarantee they hold their card if they want to, or cards. One thing I wanted to look up, the Syndicate here has this, you can steal 1 billion from players with mining research fire rate. No, it's the reduced difficulty of combat anomalies. No. After rolling for raids, you can choose to reduce your roll to a lower result. I thought it was the last one and got really confused. Okay. Normally you wouldn't want to reduce a die roll in this game, I think. But I look at the raid table and see, the high results are very violent, whereas, you can take goods from other people using the raid table. So there is a way to steal goods, which is cool. And that might be one of the best things. But look, I could steal a tech marker. But I might not want to get a 9 or a 10. I probably want the rest. So that's a nice little ability. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out what they can afford to build. Some differentiation. The Praetorians had a decent amount of money, a decent amount of tech. They decided to build as much as they could, basically. And they have, they're only at CV2. Anybody make it to CV3? Thought somebody did. Yeah, the transhumans, but I put theirs out there. Okay. And they're choosing next. The Syndicate had a lot of ships they could build. They built one because their tech is not as good a level, so they wanted to hold some cash. Likewise, the Starfarers wanted to hold some cash, and they're going kind of all in on REs. They built a couple more REs because I'm way up here at a decent malfunction rate. Yes, I have the capability. In fact, I have the cheap CV modifier, which is kind of neat. I could populate this. It might be worth going there. It might be worth going there because my goal is to do a survey on Vega. But I'm only allowed, I'm actually allowed 2 bases. So I could make my way here and here, do a survey on Vega, and get my goal. Yeah, I think that's actually worth doing. Problem is I don't have enough money to buy everything. My RE range is what? It's unlimited. No. It's 2. In fact, if I settle here or here, I can't settle here. There's no base there right now. But there's a cheap anomaly there. However, I have no military capability. My ship with military capability went out this way. In the wrong direction because I threw out my my directive. Sure, I like the transhumanist cards. They have the superior robotics, which I like, but the 2 genetics are increasing their max population, which, yeah, that's going to be valuable at some point, but right now, I may not care about that. So then the question there is, when I look at cards, if I can find the rules on them, it's in buy tech, right? Buy cards. See, you put it in the blue box and it's like my mind just blanks it out. If you don't buy any text, you must discard your entire hand. Do I have any opportunity to discard cards otherwise? I don't think so. I think my only choice to get rid of those techs is to buy them or to not buy any tech and thus get a new hand, which, you know, that's kind of tough because I may want to buy a tech, but it might be worth it. Humanists who went out of their way to set themselves up so they could, like, start colonizing. I mean, it's good to colonize, right? Oh, fuck. Max Ships. God damn it, I didn't see that sucker. Oh, boy. Oh, and I got no way to count that except by looking on the board, right? So Praetorians have a max ships of 4 right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to have to withdraw a ship, I think. I'm curious whether or not that's correct. Like whether, I know it is with CVs, but is it correct? Like, are the REs counted within that? I'm going to have to find that. I may have to undo some of my purchases. I really hope nobody's already over the limit. Here in the other, component scan, and it's got something here like max fleet size and bases. Okay, great, thanks. What's the description? It doesn't tell me. Now, I'm assuming REs count, and I'm going to have to get some money back. But you can't exceed your maximum ships by century. Yeah, I think REs count as ships. Are so good. The Praetorians had to sell one back. I actually sold one back for the transhumanists, so I have room for this. And that gives me a little bit more money padding, which I'm cool with as well. Starting to think of them as the shining path in my own head. You know, they don't have much money, and they're at kind of a call of their settlements are really cheap. Now, I'm sending a settlement out already with them. Only one guy, but... And one guy is kind of cool because that can't be taken from me, right? But they have no tech. And the real question, I guess, comes down to, do they really want the RE exploration bonus, this extra trade good? It's cool. It's cool. And I would kind of like it. So I think I'm going to hold off on buying any new ships with them. It's the consortium. One thing that I noticed, since they're in the #1 position and they buy ships last, which this is not simultaneous ever. It is in reverse initiative order. I can look and I can see, oh look, there's military ships from 2 players. Blue doesn't have one. But I'm particularly interested in the who can handle, not because of my directive, which doesn't regard that actually, but who can handle an anomaly? Because I'm in kind of a position where I have more knowledge than anyone else did. What I don't have is a fast ship. The Praetorians do. So these guys can handle this anomaly. The Praetorians could handle this anomaly, which means unless I sent these 2 for 16 bucks here, there are no anomalies I can clear up. Now, what do you get for the anomalies? Well, it's not a huge bonus in any case. It may be better to be trying to establish bases. These ships would give me a fair amount of carrying capacity. But what did I say? See, I have a ton of money and a ton of research, which is very appealing. That would cost me 16, 26, 31. That would cost me all my bucks. I'm not really interested in these cards, so I don't mind taking a pass on tech to discard my hand. at all. I don't really like those cards, and it may be the only way I get rid of them, right? As far as I can tell. Which is intriguing. There's no question about that. Now, unlike the Starfarers, though, I'm only allowed a single base, which means I'll clutter this thing up. Yeah, it's got a population of 12, you know. It's not going to get that big on its own very quickly. So, yeah, that could be my base. No, but it's this one that I'm looking at, which actually is probably going to be pretty well populated. I don't know. Trade Connections, I decided to go all in on colonizing with them. They're the only ones who are really doing that. Others, you know, the Praetorians are sending a couple, but yeah, and going there would be my means of getting this. Blue won't have enough. Now, 2 players could combine and resolve the anomaly during the exploration segment, I guess. See, what's interesting is over here, exploration is simultaneous follow initiative orders for surveys. Okay, well, this is not a survey. Each ship has 1 action per turn it can use to explore, resolve an anomaly, event, mine, research, or terraform. If I wanted to do an anomaly, if I want to work with someone else, we have to make an agreement as to how we split the goodies. And there's no reason for me to work with someone else. I can do it on my own. So it's like, in the event that like 2 other people were there, I don't know how we resolve that. I feel like it should be initiative order. Hey, I'm first. I get to do it anyway. So there we go. But yeah, I have some worries about certain things in the game not being covered properly for timing. Yeah, I'm worried about the tech thing that I discussed before, but this clearly is problematic if it's not timed. It's not simply a matter of, you know, withholding or being able to secretly declare or whatever. Anyway, let's go back here. We just built our ships. Nobody's got any damage. Great. Combat. Do we have any ships that can fight each other? No, because we rolled the dice and we're still at peace. It's like only 4% right now. And that's a big deal. Oh, that's such a pain in the ass. This guy, is it this guy? Somebody has one where there's a couple who have a directive that they have to do combat. The transhumanists rate a base of the player with the most settlements other than yourself. The Praetorians have one, initiate fleet combat against the player with the most. They can't do these things until that percentage comes out. Now the transhumanists probably don't care. They can take any kind of directive, and they want to churn them quickly. The givers need 2 terraforms. The Praetorians love combat ones, so you know they kind of don't want to discard that, but I may end up paying to get rid of that directive. When do I do that? I think it's at any time. Why don't I do it now? Once per turn. Yeah, I think I should pay an IP and get rid of my directive. And that means putting those into a different bag again. So after paying that, I've got to draw 2 more. I get a terraform. I don't know. Terraforming is hard. I don't have the tech yet. But I do have the tech to trade. So we'll grab that one instead. Unfortunately, I don't have... Like, this is a big pool of pieces. These guys are big and kind of strange shaped. These are big and kind of a pain in the ass. All of those I just throw in this bag each time. This bag would work as well. I have some other smaller bags, but they're just not going to work, and I couldn't use a cup or something. I could use a box, I guess. I got plenty of... I got smaller boxes that I could use as kind of those kind of things like the camera box and stuff like that. But it's just sort of a pain in the ass, the amount of different pulls you have in this game. Gets me to the movement. And basically, I probably had some ideas when I built these ships where they were going to go, but it's a pain. It's a pain. This is reverse initiative order again, so you kind of telegraph your move to people. Oh, I made a mistake. Okay, let me check this first one. These guys, I can't settle this. I'm close. That would be 10 biotech. I have that. So by the time I get there, I'll be able to buy the biotech. So that's safe. That's something to consider here. What can you settle? These guys, this is a 70%, which would also be 10 biotech for these guys. They don't have that kind of tech. So although I was planning on going here with the thought of, well, maybe we can gang up and hit this 7 or something, we don't really have that capability. So I'm going to go here with him. This guy, I was considering the Starfarers, but they have a 50%. Now, maybe they have some kind of bonus, but 50% is a long ways away. 60% here is reachable. I don't really like the idea of going where the Praetorians are, but that gets me in shooting distance of Vega. So I'll shift to here. This is just ships I placed this turn. And if I'm doing that, I can look at my tech and try to see, hey, what do I want to do? I actually need more biotech, but I have a fair number of ships at places that have biology. So I'm going to send my RE there. But yeah, there's a lot you have to balance, and you can very easily fuck yourself over by making some bad choices here where you're like, your colonists end up someplace you're not going to be able to settle, and you could have known that. Fair, none of these kind of decisions are anything like as problematic as the ones in High Frontier where you can fuck yourself over so badly. I think I screwed up with these guys, though. They chose to build a ship that they wouldn't have if they had this. So I may switch them. They want a trade capability. This ship cost me 8. If I send a colonial ship, this gets me, yeah, that costs $1 more. And then I could buy 2 guys, which I don't really like. I could save myself some money with this, but I didn't really like my cards, so I'm okay with this. The reason I chose the transhumanists to have a military ship was the directive that I threw away, which had to do with combat shit. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do combat shit. So let's send them over here. They're getting so fucking crowded. Keep working. I got that thing. Top of the decisions of where to move the new ships that I just built, the possibility of, hey, you know, maybe the givers want to send their ship out further, and then I have to look, okay, I got enough RE range, I could. What the fuck's my directive? Trading. I think I'm going to stay in the same places. My chances are still fairly good to find stuff and get tech, you know. It's not going to be taking another Where's their movement rate? Taking another 3 turns to go out further, even though I have the range to do it, just doesn't seem worth it. So everybody's moved. All the systems that are, you know, pretty rich are hard to get, are cluttered as hell. I don't think this game plays all that well in 7 just because of the clutter on the board around, right at the beginning. Later on, well, okay, first of all, if there were less players, they still have the same max ship numbers, so there'd be a lot less, you know, let's say there were only 4 players, there'd be a little over half the number of ships that are out there. Later on, we're going to be spread out more, and there's going to be less competition for which spaces people are in. So that got me through movement. We did combat already, right, because there isn't any. And now it's time for exploration. And once again, I'm going to do this again on a system-by-system basis with the reverse initiative as to what they try to do. Really nothing interesting happened here. He should have gotten a draw. I think he got this draw. Yeah, I didn't calculate his. 3, 6. He had a 6 as well because of that. Okay, another success. Let's see if I lied. Yeah, basically nothing interesting happened here. They're just going to collect their biomarkers. Crappy as they may be. No ships were destroyed. That's fine. You don't particularly want your ships destroyed, to be honest. But this doesn't move down. There's no world actions. Nobody had any capability, any combat capability there, so these can't be dealt with. Conceivably, we could be doing, or am I mistaken, mining and research. Systems where there's a revealed world and no base you control, where you can get billions of dollars, or you could get tech markers, but there's, I don't know, this is weird, right? So if your role is less than or equal to half the world's research plus half your ship's exploration. So the best we had was a 3 here, so that would be a research value of 3. I could have a 50-50 chance of getting an exploration ship, and that would be of the gray type. So if I really wanted mechanical exploration, I could go for that. But it feels better to go for the more exciting stuff. If I get a success, I might get an anomaly, get IPs and all that. Right now, the chances are better of finding something than doing exploration. In addition, it's worse than that. Yeah, it's worse than that. So, has to be a research ship, which I believe are the ones with the little... So mining and exploration cannot be done by REs anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to do it anyhow. A research ship is one with the little microscope on it, I think. I thought that gave a +1 for something. Research ship, +1 science anomaly resolution. Okay. It does give a +1 for something. But it also allows you to do research and not just exploration. But even if I was making the choice, it feels like it would be better to be doing exploration, even if I had a research ship there. All right, more planets. Fuck. So this guy, I just noticed, had a CV cost reduction. I'm really bad at paying attention to lots of like game state in terms of like cards and everything, unless that's all a game is about. Like something like Dominion I can kind of deal with, or Magic. But this guy built 2 ships. He should have $4 billion. He built 2 CVs. He should have $4 billion more than he does, which will help. There was a reason I bought this damn card, but, you know, I'm just going to not pay attention to them a lot of the times. Like I didn't catch this until after I had rolled and already assessed. Happened here, this one, we got a success for the givers. And so they got the big 5-pointer and they found a no world marker. No. Here, we had one success. Haven't checked anomaly yet. No anomaly. But, well, that's not him. A green counter, green guy over here. But he also lost his ship, which gives him more tech. Collecting that up. And then these others. A pretty dull turn. The mechanisms are feeling kind of painful. Again, maybe because they're not in a linear layout. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can do something like that when it gets... Right now, it's not that complicated. You know, I started here, worked my way around. But there's so many ships clustered in one place. That means it's time to buy techs. And I said we don't do that simultaneously. I got to juggle a lot of things in my head, and it's certainly worse because I'm playing solo, but it's a lot of stuff, right? Like okay, what are the Praetorians up to that they're trying to do, and what do they have to do as their next step and whatnot? It's kind of overwhelming me. It wasn't all that long ago that I played the first one, and I think it was very similar in the sort of feel, but I'm feeling more overwhelmed here. Of course, my mind might be going. Example, this is a 60% habitability, and I'm sending people there. I have to buy this for 10. But I don't have to do it now. I have to do it before this ship arrives, which means, you know, I could spend 12 on a genetic. That doesn't really help me. But maybe I would be more bonused by spending on the sensor upgrades. Of course, I already have one of these, so that would cost me 15? No, 17, because it's plus 5. Oh, that's nasty. Yeah. Oh no, it's a fleet one. It would only cost me 15 because I have a reduction there. I don't have that kind of money. I think I'll just buy the thing that I know I want. And I'm not going to overspend just in order to cause, you know, to play with the pool. That doesn't make sense. It's just when you have choices, it does make some sense. And that'll get me an IP at least. Now we work through that kind of thinking for each of the different players. Painful for these guys. Now, they have a bigger hand of cards because of this. This might be neat, might not. I don't know. I don't have any physics. I have 2 bio ones, but those are going to cost me 5 extra. I don't have much bio. RoboMiners, I look at this and I'm like, it costs 8. It's worth 3 big victory points. That's kind of nice. Like this is also worth 3 big victory points. Having nothing to do with the, you know, that's kind of cool, but I'm not really looking for victory points. I'm looking for what I can get in terms of value. Bases produce $1 billion extra when producing cash. At this point in the game, I'm only allowed to have one base, which means every 7 turns I get an extra whole $1 billion. I don't think it's worth me buying tech with that, unless there was something I really wanted that I could get cheaply or something. Like this would only cost me 5 physics, but I don't want to do that. So I think I'm actually going to pass and discard my hand. Now, this one is particularly appealing, but it's not worth a lot of victory points. But it would cost me 14. 14, I'm assuming it's bio because it's a green card anyway. It would cost me 14 points to get, and it improves the habitability. And eventually I'm going to get up there on that anyhow. So yeah, I'm going to just say I don't want to buy more tech. I don't think the tech helps me terribly at this point. Something ugly here. I can get 2 bio cards back, but there's only 1 fleet card. I'm nowhere near buying level 2 in either of these. I could grab a card from level 2, but what I'm not sure of what happens, I believe, here it says draw cards. If you don't buy any text or cards, you must discard your hand and redraw. Shuffle discards back into the deck at the end of the turn. I think I'm forced to take a Fleet 2 card by the way the rules are written. That's the way I read it. And if anyone else discards, they also will not be able to get Fleet 1s until those are reshuffled in at the end of the turn. That may not be the intention, but here's a problem. If it was the intention to reshuffle or whatever, this is supposed to be a simultaneous action, which means, yes, I'm fiddling around and making it non-simultaneous so that people can order when they see things on there, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense that like these 2 cards would then immediately go in, they'd get reshuffled or whatever. It just doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't match the same play situation as it would be if it was indeed simultaneous. If you judged, look, you have to be able to redraw your cards. You could just do all the draws at the end, which is when you would do it anyway, and yeah, but they wouldn't be randomized properly. Yeah, you'd have to have some kind of ordering as to who gets the ones that are available. So I think I'm stuck with a Fleet 2 card as one of my bonus cards. Now, I'm probably going to be ditching cards again. He's low on tech and didn't see anything he really wanted to buy at this point to hold on to his cards. Starfarers, because I see that he's doing this and I need it as well, I'm going to actually, and I could spend IP, but that would save me 2. I have so little money, I might as well spend it. I'm going to spend $1 billion of cash to be able, I don't have enough to be able to do anything with, is what it comes to also join him here and thus get an IP as well. Otherwise, I don't know, I could get it cheaper next turn. So I don't know which is better. But I like collecting IPs. It feels like, I'm in the space race or something. Transhumanists don't particularly want to hold their cards and in fact kind of want to discard them. I'm going to pay an IP in these bios to buy that same ability and thus get an IP back. Is that worth it? Again, I don't know. But they are also going to go there. True Path, we have a hard choice. I kind of like this Skilled Entertainers. It's worth 3 victory points. It only costs 8. I don't have a bio yet. Draw an extra trade good. You can produce entertainment in any system. Sell entertainment for +1 billion. That seems like a good thing. So I kind of want to do that. I checked my ship. This is another thing you have to be sure of. And sure, the transhumanists were going in here with the 90%, but I'm going into a 90%. I don't really care. I don't need that. And getting one IP for it doesn't seem worth all that much. IPs are worth half a victory point each. This is worth 3. That would cost me 10. This costs me 8. But in order to do it, I have a choice between spending 2 IP or shifting that and using some cash. And the real question here is, I only have 12 bucks. That could buy me this pretty easily, which is cool and all. This would cost me 13 to fully load, so I don't really want to do that. So I think I'm going to actually spend cash instead of my IPs on this. Technically, I probably should do initiative order on the card draws. It's too hard to do. I want to work each thing completely on its own individually. And like remembering that I'm owed a genetics card over here would be tough under those circumstances. So, and when I say technically, I don't mean by the rules, because the rules really don't tell you. But it's a good thing to draw first, because if this is empty, I can't draw from it. And this guy emptied it. So now, if I had played a fleet card, I also would have to draw a fleet 2 card. And I don't want to, you know? I wonder if it says you may draw a card. I don't think so. I think it says they draw. If you don't buy any texture cards, you shuffle and redraw. Yeah, it doesn't say may. So I can't like delay, and there's no discards or anything like that except by getting rid of your entire hand. Of course, if you have cards you want to buy, you make sure you buy them, I guess is the thing. Anyway, I'm doing it this way. To hell with the fact that that gives some potential advantage to somebody who's at the back end of the order. Final of the techs, which is this guy. Now he's not sure he wants these. +1 combat value to armed CVs includes anomaly in an event. That sounds pretty cool. And -1 to enemy planetary assaults, etc. I think this is what I'd like to do, but it takes physics points. This one's a ground combat and planetary assault. Oh, actually, this would cost me 12. Ground combats and planetary assault rolls, you know, not really sure I want to be particularly well defended, and I'm not really an attack person. So I don't know if I care about that. And what I have is shit tons of engineering. Do I want to buy an engineering capability? I already have this one. I could go forward to this. That would cost me like 7. But I could wait until somebody else gets up there too, and then it's 5. I could go to this, and that would also cost me 7. It gets me the CV3 purchases, which might be cool and whatever. And then I'd be the only person with both of these, so I could go to the Orbital Shipyards CV4s, which is appealing. Oh, that's an interesting facet. Ships need to be supported wherever they're moving to. I don't know where the rule is. Enough settlements to build the ship, yeah. So any ship that I send, the range, which currently is, I think, 1 for CVs, right? Yeah, CV range starts out at 1. I can't really leapfrog from these other systems. And then we have like RE range 2 is not far away. Someone has that somewhere, right? A lot of people have that capability. But whatever base this guy is building has to be big enough if I'm going to get all the way to Vega with it. Now, I can explore on the way and build up my base, so it's not that terrible a thing. Yeah. So I could decide to flush those cards. This is a bad turn to do it because the Fleet 1 card is missing. And I don't know. Do I really care? I already have a Fleet 1, right? I have to pay extra for it. Or I could buy into this for 7, which seems like a pretty cool purchase. Or I could buy into this for 7. But see, yeah, but this is 20. That's fucking expensive. How are my CV3s? Are they something I'm gonna really want? Who am I? I'm this guy. I mean, I don't know. They have a lot of carrying capacity. Are they cheap? I don't have REs deployed in large numbers. I have one out here. Looking, I think that's all I have. Let's see if he's there. I don't want to flush the cards because I get a bad draw. I think the RE malfunction is probably the best thing. Now we actually adjust the text. This goes up there. He just has this as well. But all these guys who went up here, they each are going to get an IP. And then they can settle at 60% habitability, which is this space, I think. If we, that's a 70. Oh, this one is also a 60. Nice. Nice. Didn't I say this was going to start moving quicker? I don't know. You know, I mean, there's sort of a level of, do I either want to give details on what's happening in the game, or do I want to come back each turn and say, oh, look, a lot of stuff happened. I can't explain all of it, but you can see the ships have moved around. I don't know. I feel like that would be useless, and I've gotten really used to going into more and more detail. Okay, I just got a really weird response. And I can see what's going on now that I look at the tech chart from the designer. Atmospheric processing. You can terraform with mining ships during the exploration phase. Okay. So what's supposed to happen is all the terraforming happens in the economic phase, which fits like the terraforming chit, right? Atmospheric processing allows you a specific different kind, and I don't remember what mining ships are. They have another symbol on them, I think. I don't know if we have any of them. They have like, yeah, this little cog on them. Instead of the science thing. And they're the only ships that can do mining. But they can do terrifying during the normal exploration phase, but otherwise terraforming happens in the economic phase. And boy, is this weird to me. It's like, so here we have terraforming with mining ships. Yeah, if you have atmospheric processing, you can do this. See terraforming, page 17. This was what I thought was the only way you could do terraforming, but I didn't really realize that, like, I didn't realize that was a different tech from the terraforming tech. Whereas normal, if you have terraforming, you can terraform one world in a system, and that would be with the chit. So you're allowed to kind of do it at will with mining ships once you get this extreme tech up here. It really didn't make sense to me when I read the thing, because I was like, wait, atmospheric processing? What the fuck is that? Yeah. Okay. So it all makes sense now as to what's where and why, but it's like, feels funny to me. Like, in the scenario, let me find the scenario where I ran into this, because obviously we don't have that tech here, which was Footfall Among the Stars, which allows terraforming. Players draw 10 billion at the start of the turn, and players with the tech terraforming can terraform once at the end of the turn, which isn't when you would normally do it, but I mean, again, scenarios are weird, in a system where they have a base. See terraforming rules. This is not a scenario, like this scenario would be very hard to get there and to terraform something and win the scenario, because it's a really tight race to make it. Like, I failed with very good luck, I think, making kind of all the right choices, but I may have screwed up the turn count. Like, I may have not moved the turn forward once, or moved it forward once too many effectively. Actually, ships may not have arrived as quickly as they should have, or something along that line. But I may have missed something else, because, you know, you have to remember, I didn't notice this shit. I'm good at skipping stuff, and especially when there's lots of color. Just the way life is. Here I am, 4 a.m. on Thursday. And I made my way up here because I said, you know, you got to try to get a turn in a day at least. This is a long game, but it's going to be a lot longer if I don't play it. Okay, anyway, 5% chance, I believe. Nope, that's 35. We flip a new counter. Roll initiative and discard escalation. Well, nobody has any escalation, so that's that. Initiative, everybody's going to just have percentile dice, and I actually have to do percentile dice now because, doesn't someone have a bonus in initiative? I swear somebody does. Yeah, plus 20% initiative. Conceivably, I might be able to do it with put in a certain number of these per player or something like that to do it. But yeah, so let's see what we get for the Praetorians to begin with. Okay, so they're going to get a 53. I'm going to have a hard time. I wish I had a number tracker or something to put this on. Obviously, if everybody has their own percentile dice, that's fine, but I do not. I have things like this that I can kind of fake and say, there's theirs, and work my way around. That little mnemonic, I'm able to essentially keep it down so that there were just a few that I had to keep in mind. And this is our new order. We don't know what happens with the discard. It's escalation, right? Not influence. Yeah. You get rid of half of your escalation markers. Wow. That's a big reduction, and I didn't need any of these. Okay. All right, time for ships to arrive. Get to the ugliness of building and repairing ships. something interesting. I had a discussion on BGG, I think. Well, one person posted in response to my video, and I responded to that, and I haven't looked back since if there's been another response since then. Which was, yeah, there's not room on this map by any reasonable mechanism to use tracks like there were in the original Stellar Horizons for arriving at a location. There's a cost to it though, right? Like in terms of components. There's a whole bunch of these counters. Instead, what could exist, there's a few choices. One of which nobody's gonna like, which is each player could have a sheet of paper showing when ships are arriving. And just, write down, hey, how long is it gonna take to get there? I understand that that's out of favor these days. It's probably the best option, but not a great one for a solo player. But another option would be for a track here, and you would have to put a destination. You would have to have something to indicate destination as well as the time track. Now, there's a couple of ways that this could be done. One is you could just have a single chart of destinations, of a list of destinations, and everybody just puts their ship on that, and they run their ships down the tracks. That would work pretty well, and you could actually make that pretty easily. I don't know how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 4.5 is 36. So you'd have 36 different tracks on it that you could keep track of everything. That would reduce a lot of the clutter because a lot of it's ships traveling in transit. It makes it less clear where stuff is going, though, if you don't have it right on the board, which is kind of the disadvantage of it all. But yeah, I don't know. You could also have like a series of such charts, or split the charts up geographically in such a way that it's pretty obvious whose chart you're looking at. Which would make it a little easier as well. I think those things would be interesting possibilities for I mean, look, this amount of counters, there's a whole lot of these. Probably costs more than a single well laid out track thing. Is it better or worse? I don't know. And I don't know if they explored that. Anyway, now it's the hard part of the game, which is deciding who's building what. And I got to keep in mind that I have a maximum number of ships for each faction. This one's easy. I have no money, and I can't use influence for that. I think I can only use influence to make up tech. Color differentiation between these guys and the Praetorians. Now, right next to each other, I can tell those are different. But I look over here and I'm kind of like, are they the same? No, they're not. And with the amount of clutter, it's hard to tell. Right now, I'm kind of at a point where I don't think people want to spend much on ships. Maybe for robotic explorers, but the CVs, money is a little tight right now. We got one more economic phase. It's not the Earth production. I know what it is, so I might as well look. It's going to be the event. Okay. I know what it is because I've played all the rest, the other 6. If all you have to build is CVs and or settlements and whatnot, it seems like a particularly bad time at this stage in the game. At a later stage in the game, it might make sense if you want to haul goods somewhere or whatever. But right now, it seems like a terrible time to be building ships for most of the players. And that's what I'm kind of coming across with. They don't have a lot of tech. They want flexibility. Let's wait. see what comes up next turn. Arians are in the ugly position. They actually have enough money. They have an RE available, but they got all their ships built. Now they could destroy a ship. If they really wanted this RE instead of one of these, they all have the same value. So everybody decided not to build anything. Or nobody decided to build something. I don't know how to put that. Which is more pleasing. That puts us to the next thing, which is combat. There isn't any because we're still in an enforced peace. Cargo and transfer and trade, not applicable yet. Soon. Do we have any colonists showing up yet? Not yet. This one's, nothing's fully explored either. Yeah, there's not going to be any of that. Which means we go to movement. Now, movement is interesting at this point because things are starting to show up that are different. Let's take the transhumanist RE here. This has a 2-5-6 chance of finding anything. That may not be the best place I could, well, it's not the best place I could be. I could be over here. Now, what's my RE range? It's 2 right now. If I head out here early, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's still worth plunking around at a 6, but maybe not everybody will. Crowding issues, they're going to get a lot worse. Because when I get a base on somewhere, that's more things filling up these spaces. Multiple people can have bases in the same place. Although, was there a restriction on that? You kind of build a base in the cargo transfer. This you have to write down. I don't think there's a limitation on the number of players who can have bases. There is a max bases. It's hard to remember everything. There is a max number of bases total on the board, but I don't think there's a limitation on how many players can be in any given system. And what that means is you could have 7 players all here because it's maybe the richest system or whatever. Lots of ships are going to be going in and out of there. While it's still being explored, ships are going to be going in and out. Yeah. But also ships are going to be going in and out in terms of like, you can start building ships in a place with bases. And the more bases you have, yeah, you can put them all in a big pile, but then it's not easy to tell how many things you have there. It starts becoming kind of a, yeah, well, I need to do that because the board is getting too cluttered. And that's going to be the case. And then on top of that, you got trade goods on top of the bases, which have to be kind of piled with them. Yeah, that's going to be ugly. It's the cost to move your ships, not that it costs you money or whatever, but in terms of time, without doing anything, it's just too high to justify leaving behind something for slightly better odds. Now that can change. Later in the game, one of the reasons it's you want to just stay exploring the stuff that you're close to right now is there's no combat. Later on, let's say your REs are like being threatened by an arriving ship, which you see because it's right on the board and everything. Well, at that point, you're kind of like, I don't know whether or not I'll be aggressed. Okay, I'll continue going. I'm almost halfway through. Basically, nobody could justify it. That's going to put us to exploration. Unfortunately, my tea is almost out. So I'm going to pause for a little bit. Give me time to go play my other game a little more. I've got like close to an hour before I have something happen in Raid. So it's part of why I was able to make it up here. Raid gives you these energy boosts a couple times a month that are like huge, but they mean that you're playing more than normal. And this time, like, sometimes they happen at times when I would burn all that energy, I'd burn the time and whatnot. I'd just be using energy from different sources that doesn't just fill my energy pool. It's like longer term sources. And unfortunately, when they give you these big pools, and they're giving me one on Friday, which sucks because that's my dance night. When they give you these big pools of energy, you kind of have to use it at once, or you lose, like, I don't know, a quarter of the value of it by just letting it sit above your energy cap. I don't know. If you play those kind of games, you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, well, it's just a bad thing. You're like forced into these periods where you're like, oh, I have to play even though there was no event that I really wanted to chase. There's just so many times the game forces you to play. I started the exploration, but then realized, wait, there's more going on at this point in the game than exploration now, right? But let me just give you a brief rundown. This guy had a ship destroyed, didn't get his points. This guy, or he got he didn't get enough to convert anything. But what's important is blue here has something that can resolve this issue, and he's going to do that rather than explore. Now, there's a timing issue here that I tried to express that's not clarified in the rules at all. This is supposed to be an entirely simultaneous section. However, you can make deals with other people. So, like, look, the easy timing thing, not that it matters at all here, is that you'd follow initiative order for a chance to deal with an anomaly. I don't think there's anything else that's problematic. And, so blue would go here. If you have to make deals, this is where the timing you have to make some kind of decision on timing. And I see two possible answers. One is, if you're earlier in the initiative, any deal that you make takes place at your initiative slot. Initiative's not even covered in this at all, right? But if you have to make a deal, it could take place in your initiative slot, or it could take place in the initiative slot of the last person of any deal. This is important because let's say blue and gray here had a deal, but this guy could resolve it on his own, or a series of players could resolve it at a lower initiative. I kind of like that second version better, that you have to take the worst initiative of anybody in the deal, because that gives people who have a better initiative. Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I think that's the way I'm going to go with it, is that, let's say we're in a situation where these three want to make a deal, but this guy and this guy want to make a deal, that these three would get to go first because they beat him out. Now that gives him maybe an opportunity to try to cut a deal with one of these three, to try to trump in and whatever. And that, however that's going to be handled. There is no transfer of anything in this game, though. Okay? That's important. I can't give you a billion bucks. The only thing that there's a transfer of is the confines of the deal as to how you split the results from the deal. But I might be able to give a better deal to this guy than these guys are willing to. But then they could turn around and say, hey, let's match that or whatever. So there's a lot of room for negotiation and table talk there. It's got to be there because you're able to make these deals. It's not going to be an issue here. I'll get through the exploration, then we'll go to how that's resolved and what happens, and it's actually pretty simple, but let's get back to that. The terraformers here lost their RE. Nobody managed to get enough, the big 5 point that they need to get. Yeah, it's the only chit that'll do it. Now, it's possible you could get 2 chits with a big enough ship, but not early on. Okay, so let's take a look at resolving an anomaly. Some anomalies, here we go. As an exploration action, ships can resolve anomalies. So I had to give up my exploration to do this. Any number of ships can participate, but this uses the action of each. Ships of more than one player can work together as long as they agree how to divide the reward. Add up combat or exploration. In this case, I'm using my combat value for this. I don't know if I have any advantages, but I have enough. I total higher. Starfarers and syndicates have bonuses. Yeah, I thought I had one. Resolution is automatic, and I earn the reward. The reward is 1 IP and 1 flora. I have nowhere to put the flora, so I throw it out in space. This now flips over. It prevented bases, but this one does too. And now any bases here get an additional biology marker and an additional biology marker. I'm assuming that that is when production happens, when base production happens. If they decide to take tech, they get an extra biology marker. And whenever trade goods are produced, they get the capability to produce flora rather than an additional flora. That's how I'm reading it. The rules are too sparse to go into details on how to interpret these things. I think that's the best way to interpret it. There's not enough space, obviously, on the counter for it. We also concluded an anomaly. Does that get us anything? No, that just gets us the bonus, but that the anomaly itself gave. But if I had an anomaly bonus here, I might have, worked towards concluding my my directive. Didn't happen. All right, so that's one system, and it took, a few minutes. Each system takes a few minutes. Luckily, there aren't very many being explored right now, but they're very thickly populated by ships. A pirate ship destroyed and some tech found, but we had a success here. I moved that down. Neither of these worlds is a 12. So we're able to draw a new world tile. This has to be up to a 12. This doesn't work, so I don't get a new planet. But we did decrease this. We got an IP for it. We get our tech for it. We get an anomaly chance, which is successful. That is another IP. And we have found a scientific anomaly. Savage storms prevents bases from being built here. Creates additional physics. Obviously, nobody can resolve it the turn that it's found. But, interesting stuff is happening. Is basically what it comes down to. I'm finding that tech production is ramping up pretty high, so that holding money to try to save your cards doesn't feel like a necessity. I'm working my way through the ships. I need a little counter, not a big one. Let's get a little one. I am on this ship. I did these two. Nothing of excitement was found here. Nothing of excitement was found here either, but we reduced the value. But yet, I've done these two ships, and then I notice, oh wait, I have a microscope. That's a research ship. I could do research. And similarly, this one could as well. Okay, a research ship can research on a system with at least a world and no base you control. Pick a world in the system, roll a die. If you roll half the research, if you roll less than or equal to the world's resource plus half research plus half your ship's exploration. So let's take a look. Because my exploration is 4, so it's half my ship. So it's a total of 3. I'm better off exploring for planets. The difference is there's no malfunction possibility on these. So, you know, and CV malfunction is relatively high, but not as devastating. So CV malfunction right now is 50%. However, that's a hit, and you can pay for that. $3 you can repair it during the build and repair phase. 50% wasn't hit on this guy. You can give him his biomarker because it's not going to count. It's not high. This guy succeeded in his check. However, he got a 45, which is under 50. Now, he has a minus 5%, but he has not reduced his CV malfunction. 45 is just what he needed to get it hurt. To mark that, we get a damage marker. This doesn't give you anything, unlike an RE when it malfunctions. Now, if you manage to destroy the ship, you get a biomarker, but destroying a CV for a marker is a really bad deal. So you want to keep repairing. The True Path, Shining Path, Shiny Truth lost an RE here over with just getting the mechanical point for losing it. But over here, we got physics checks, one of which is successful. I was going to point out again, and I probably have before, look, if this had been like a 1, if this was a 3, they couldn't add up and get that 5. It's got to be all on one ship. But we got it all on one ship. So we get a success there. Now we check for, is there anything else? And this is how things end up in the wrong cup. Because they look, there is not. So I check for a planet. This is not planets. Wonder what's in that black bag. There's something in that black bag. Trade goods. And we have found this. Can't go there. Okay. I think we keep drawing until we get a legitimate planet. Return it to the pool and redraw it. Yeah, I think I'll return it to the pool later. Okay, so we get a K. That gets me an IP. First, and I know all this walking around and then chit managing, but I don't want to, you know, stop the video and restart it. There's issues with that. Minor ones, but issues. And then I check for an anomaly there. And we don't get that. So that's the end of exploration. We've done all the planet. This one we haven't arrived at yet. And again, I have, I'm going with a slower start than you're supposed to. People are supposed to have ships on planets everywhere. And now it's one of the most painful parts of the game, which is developing tech. Because like shipbuilding, I have to look at each faction and think about them a little bit. Most of the game you don't have to think about. Most of it's just mechanical stuff and maybe catching something, you know, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this, remembering what you're supposed to do and whatnot. But this is where the real thinking comes in the game. It's not like, you know, it's generally not brain burner type stuff at all. Nothing in this game is brain burner the way that like High Frontier is in terms of trying to calculate if you can make it somewhere or whatever. What can be kind of painful is the tech tree and trying to balance out, if I buy that, will I have the ships and everything? But it's just a little bit of like juggling arithmetic. Kind of a big deal for me because I don't like to think too hard. I find this even painful, but it's because I've got to do so many steps of it, right? If I was just playing it alone, I would have no problem. Like, if I was just playing one faction at a table, I would be done very quickly, you know? This isn't a game that would AP me very hard. Although having to come and look at this regularly would be a pain with a lot of people. It's easier solo. The first ones who have to make their decision are the transhumans. I thought about the, I'm sorry, the consortium. Oh wait, shit, I did the oh. No, it's the transhumans who have to go. I started thinking about the consortium. Oops. Okay. Transhumans don't have a lot of anything. These are genetics. I don't have the points for that. Superior robotics. I don't have the points for that. What do I have? Bio is $3 less. Let's take a... I actually had thoughts about the others, but this would cost me 5 engineering. I don't have it. I have 5 physics, so I could get a better CV movement modifier if I want to turn in my physics things. Let me look at my cards. Do I want these cards? I said no to these. This one I kind of like, but I think I'm going to ditch my cards. Oops, I forgot to reshuffle before. Problem in this game when decks get small, same kind of problem I had in Gloomhaven. You know, you had decks of like 10 or less cards, which really aren't very good for shuffling. The way I do them is I roll a die. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be the bottom card. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be the next card. And I do things kind of like that. Just to get some kind of randomization. I do shuffle them a little bit so that I don't know the order, but I don't trust just shuffling. Since I chose not to buy anything, although I like this one, I can't buy it. I draw new ones. That's one I don't really want. And I get 2 genetics because that's who I am. Is this right? No, again, it's not. But it's the only way I can do it. Is some people might end up without cards if they have to discard. And ideally, card draws would go in initiative order. Decisions would go in reverse initiative. Card draws would go in initiative. I don't want to deal with that because I want to handle one faction at a time. Create a kind of situation that I have mixed feelings about, and maybe existed in the original Stellar Horizons. Definitely exists in Empires of the Middle Ages, where you want to go in initiative may not be first all the time. In this game, by the rules, as far as they're written, remember, I made this up so that there's some sort of timing effort. This is supposed to be done simultaneously, which I don't even know what happens then. You know? Like there's rules that are missing that you have to fill in no matter what. But I have added a situation where initiative is not always to your advantage. And this is a game where gaining initiative is generally just a good thing. And I think I would not do this in an opposed game. In an opposed game, I would make the decisions go in reverse initiative and the card draws go in positive initiative choice. But it's just too hard for me to handle solo that way. And I'd rather introduce a little bit of an artifact that I'm not sure. Like, in a game like Empires of the Middle Ages, it makes perfect sense. You might want to go first, you might want to go last. Usually you want to go last so you can see what your opponents are doing and understand what they're doing. But if they're in a bad strait, you get an advantage by being able to grab the initiative. Kind of like in Third Reich, where there's, I guess I pointed that at not just Advanced Third Reich, but in Third Reich, there's this opportunity for kind of a double turn. You can get the same kind of thing by fiddling with your initiative. And then there are weird times where you're like, yeah, I think I want to go, where you're trying to predict where other people will pick their initiative. You don't want to go, you want to go as far back as you can. You want to go as far back as you can given the other, what you think the other players will pick. but you can't be sure, so you could guarantee yourself to just go all the way in the back or whatever. Well, all the way in the front. It's only in times when you want to go earlier that it becomes an issue where you have to like kind of have to make these decisions. I don't feel like this card draw thing is that valuable. You're going to get the cards eventually. You just might not get them available to you on the turn that you want them. Oh, actually, no, it's worse than that. You have to pick cards from a different set, a set you can't buy. The True Path have a particularly problematic situation. They have enough points that they could buy something. They have 2 cards. They can't really afford I mean, they could afford either card, right? This costs 9, and they have a genetic. It would cost them 14. They got 4. They got a $10 here. But I don't want to burn my money to that extent, right? These cards, again, I get more. Right? If I throw them out, I get others. Physics test. This one's 12 off of physics. I have 9, 10, 11, 12, but I've already got one of these as well, so that would be 17. So I would have to spend 8 more bucks. And again, that seems too high. Now, if I look here, I have 7, 8, 9 physics tech. I could get this for 5. I could put $1 in and improve my RE movement, but I'm not planning on doing RE movement right now. My CV movement, I've already sent my ships out. Although my settlements are cheap, it might be worth sending another settlement out. I think I will go for the CV movement thing, but there's a reasonable argument in favor of just holding my materials and not improving my tech. Because I'm burning through some cash to do this. But I think it's worth getting the CV movement up because I might well send another ship out. Well, Mai Tai. Yeah, I've only got 3 out. Here, again, kind of low on money, not hugely low. I bought this for 12 engineering tech. That got me the last Fleet 1 card, although I've got a Fleet 2 card in hand, which I don't get rid of because of that. But whatever. There's sort of this weird, like, decision process. So I couldn't buy either of these. Actually, I could buy this one. Improved component design, RE malfunction down. That might have been worth it. I did what I did, though. But if I wanted to buy this, it's going to cost me 7, and I don't get an IP from it. So I kind of would rather wait for somebody else to do it, or until I know that I want more ships available. But right now, I don't have the cash for those new ships, so let's delay. Similar decision-making process here. Hey, I'm getting this as cheap as I can. I might as well buy it. Get that RE malfunction down. But then we get to the consortium. Consortium has there's a lot of engineering tech available right now, apparently. But they get there. They have a couple of cards they don't really care about. It's enhanced strength, hypersonic missiles, all combat stuff. Yeah, it could be useful. It's worth victory points too. But not really absolutely thrilled by it. Which means this would be a nice time to flush cards, but I would be getting a Fleet 2. But what's interesting here, I would get a biology one. I could get a biology 2 if I wanted to, but here's what's interesting. I'm here. I can actually buy either of these. These only have 1 arrow going into them. This one's level 2 fleet improvements for 10. That would get me an IP. This one's RE malfunction goes down. If I don't pass, though, I'm stuck holding these cards, and I may not get a turn where I get to do something. So I actually think I want to pass just to get rid of my cards so that I grab a Fleet 2, which I can get a cheaper You know, I have to pay 5 extra for a Fleet 2 in this. Starport systems where you have a base, get both demand markers instead of drawing 2 and picking 1. That's real sweet for the consortium. And a better system habitability on a Genesis 1, which is also nice. Very, very, well, I don't know how big a deal it is. Because again, you can get your tech all the way up. But right now, people who are going here or here need to have a higher habitability roll. So yeah, passing seemed like an interesting idea for them. Again, I'm just trying to show the extent of the kind of decisions that you make and the why. I don't know, is this boring? Yeah, well, aren't my videos just boring? Games to sleep by. A lot of engineering here. I don't have much money. I would have to spend an influence if I wanted to get, or $1, my last buck. If I wanted to get this, I guess $1 is fine, because I can't do much with $1. Scout ships, I had enough that I could have bought this. CV exploration bonus +1. Okay, that's sweet. You know, I'm gonna buy this card. This would have been, now I've damaged my money because I tried to pick it up too carefully. I was going for this to try to get an extra IP, but I think this is worth it. It gives me a CV exploration +1, but here's what's kind of icky. Plus 5% chance of finding anomalies with CVs. I've been using, you're supposed to roll percentile dice for it, but I've been using the red die for it because they get a plus 10%, but another 5%. Yeah, well, now I'm going to have to roll. That gives me a fleet marker. I'm poised to take Fleet 2 anyway, so that's kind of cool. Self-repair systems, remove a damage from each of your CVs for free. Ooh, that's sweet. Expensive as hell. Oh, this was it. Fuck that. I can't buy that. I got to reshuffle it in. I couldn't buy this. So, I don't know what I threw in. Fuck. I can't buy this because this is physics, not engineering. So I would have bought this. This would have cost 10. This would have cost 12. I spent $1. I get a 1 engineering back. That's what I had. Okay. So we figured that out. But yeah, I'm going to be upping into there, and that'll get me an IP instead. I would have rather had the thing, but I'm not willing to throw all my IP in to get that. But that's a really cool card, and I do want to save the card, which is part of why I definitely want to buy. And I'm less interested in this buying level 2. So this was the thing. I'm set up to go into here, but now I went this way. Now I can still go into here at 10, but whatever. Okay. I have one left. I have to swap batteries. Finish things up with the givers who bought CV movement modifier. They don't really need it right now. They have a little bit of money, could conceivably build. This costs too much to settle twice, so it's like, yeah, it's not a great time to do it. But it lets me hold my cards, and that's actually kind of important to me. Not so much the prolific breeders, which I like. Yeah, I guess the prolific breeders. I don't know. I don't know if I really needed to do that. I probably should have held, but another problem is if you don't keep up with your tech, you end up falling behind everyone, and they just do better than you do. And then this one gets an IP. Now, this is where things get kind of tricky, and I think I actually want another marker because he's on another level now. So I'm going to put this marker here. Otherwise, I'll get confused and not realize that he's got these. And yeah. Yeah, like if you're in this one, you have this one, but it's like, it's going to be hard for me to see that. Like visualizing that is difficult for me to do. That's going to put us to turn 6. We have to reshuffle. Nope, not yet. We have to do one more economic phase. Then we'd have a reshuffle at the end of the turn, which is going to be I shuffle them by hand and then I randomize the draws. I shuffle them by hand so I don't know what I'm getting. And we're going to go play Raid. We're probably not going to be back again until it's dark again. Here a little early tonight. It's Thursday. I don't know, probably around 8 p.m. I got myself into a fight in Raid that I can't get out of. Well, I could just lose it, but there's a chance the other guy will quit. So instead of quitting myself, I figure, hey, let's come up here. But I just fucking woke up like at 7:30, somewhere around there. And yeah, this is not a good sign. I'm sleeping too much. I get up at some point around noon or 1 p.m. and I go back to bed. And I'm getting up at like after about 5 hours of sleep, and 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then I'm sleeping way too much after that, which isn't going to work for tomorrow because, you know, I have to already, I basically have to leave the house around 6:30 to get there. Okay. So, we're at 6%. Nope. Our last shit that we knew what it was going to be, which is draw an event. We have absolutely no idea how these work. Let's go take a look. I mean, we know we draw an event. It shows up probably at somebody's base. Nobody has a base yet because of the slow start. But also, this could be the first chit you pull. So let's see. Draw event. Draw a random event. If it doesn't have a combat or science challenge, perform the action listed and return it to the pool. If it does, the player with the least initiative who has at least one base must choose the system with one of their bases. Nobody has any fucking bases. That's the problem. I think I have to transfer them to that bag. What happens after I draw an event? That's what's interesting. If no players have bases, ignore the event and return it to the pool. Yeah. What's not clear is what happens to events, but I haven't looked at them and don't have a real example. But this is one where it's very likely it's going to return to the pool. If bases start getting drawn out of the pool, I can make a pile of bases. I'm sorry, if events start, if all events basically are one-use chits, I can basically make a single pile the same way I make these, so I don't have to swap bags. It would be very useful to have this kind of information, right? Don't just call it a pool. If it's like something that can be drawn in order and, you know, has a back like this or like events does, I'm all for that. I can actually stack it anyway, because worst comes to worst, if I have to return to pool, I can do so. But right now, the likelihood is it does return to pool, so I just have to keep rebagging them. Snugglers. Oh, I'm sorry, that's an M. System can't produce trade goods until resolved. This is going to be like an anomaly. It has a combat capability, it has a reward, and it's not clear what happens to it once it's used. You know where it might tell me, I got to transfer these back in because they're sitting on my rulebook right now, but where it's the resolve anomalies and events, which is not in the draw event section, which I had to go look at because I'm not really sure, you know, where they're going to be specifics about, like it's pulled out of the deck, etc. Maybe it tells me there what happens to the event after it's resolved, because maybe it goes back in the pool. It has a serious amount of relatively large draw pool sized pools that you need. Again, The planets needs a relatively large size bag. The anomalies, the events, the titles, the directives. Each of these requires you to use something that's larger than, you know, a coffee cup. These guys are fine for this size. The planets, you could probably put in something a little... Planets might actually work in this. There's a lot of them, which is kind of part of the problem. And then trade goods could go in a cup size thing. But this, you know, maybe I could put planets in there and reduce, you know, get me down to... Because these two bags are big enough for the bigger counters, I think. But really, I mean, this one is cutting it. This would be cutting it for planets, you know. So I've got one bag big enough to handle the whole thing. Of course, you know, you could use shoe boxes. I got shoe boxes. How about that? I got one. My wife got some shoes, and I don't think she wore them. Okay, so now we go look up the other thing that we've got to figure out, which is what happens to events. That one got put back in the pool, but I'm curious what happens to them after. Anyone can resolve them, effects are applied, or if not resolved by the time the draw economics. Either every turn, effects are applied either every turn, or if not resolved by the time the draw event phase comes up next turn. Apply the effect before returning it to the pool and drawing. Wow, I don't even know what that means. Like, this appeared to be something, like maybe the statement of effects are applied either every turn or if not resolved by the time the draw events. Like, that's a choice based on the thing. So that particular event would be continuous, but because there's no way the event could take effect and then the event disappears and goes back in the pool. So I got no idea. There's nothing about what happens. Oh no, return it to the pool when resolved. Yeah, so I'm gonna constantly be every 7 turns, right? And that's why the events are over there and not in a bag continuously, whereas, what's in this bag? Anomalies, which can happen relatively often. Yeah, there's no easy way around the events. They have to be in a pool. Anomalies have to be in a pool because it's visible what they are. Both sides are contain information. Same with planets. Same with trade goods. These things, I mean, you could stack them, but you got to reshuffle them so fucking often. They have to be in pools. So yeah, those 3 would be stackable if they were like put in a discard pile instead of being returned to the pool. But luckily, none of them happen very often. All right, well, that was our phase. Now, what I need to do is randomize this and restack it. And obviously, I could put them in a pool and draw for them and try to rely on the convex concave side. Fuck. Okay, I gotta reshuffle them because I saw one. The whole point of the shuffling is so that I don't know in my head what the ordering is. So, and now I know one of them. I don't even really know what it is. And if I turn my head away, I can't be sure I'm not flipping one up. The convex concave side, the problem with that is, there's no problem with that with these. That would be a big deal if it was. But there is a set of counters, the replacement counters for the exploration. Well, the original counters are printed with one side on the convex side, whereas the replacements are all printed with it on the concave side. It doesn't have any effect on play, but it does kind of irritate me in a weird sort of way. Okay, so now I have these, and I just order them, and hopefully don't know who's who, and then start, let's get an actual 10-sided die, not that. 1, 2, 3, 4, this will be the bottom one. Same kind of shit that I do with the others. 9, I have only 6, so nothing's even, so I re-roll. 5, 3, 5, this one. And now I've got 5, so I can do double, and now I've got 8 numbers that count. 9 numbers that count. And you know, it doesn't really matter because it's going to be pretty damn random. And it's scrambled enough that I don't know what's where. But there we have that. I just want to show that kind of mechanism because it's easier than, you know, finding yet another bag or whatever. Obviously, if I had one loose bag, if I had one more decent big bag rather than this, that I didn't have to dump anything out of, that would be really helpful because I could handle those. I could handle these kind of one-time things in it. And I don't mind that, but the only other bag I have is kind of painful in that way. We got the terraforming, and I don't remember if I put one of each in. Terrible if I didn't. That's going to reduce the amount of goodie planets that are out there. All right, now it's into the main part of the game. Missing the transfer counters, it's not just a matter of the clutter they provide on the board. It's also a painful mechanical task compared to the original game, having to rotate counters on all the different pieces. And this is something that I don't think would be particularly helped by having multiple players. Solo, I just start at one place and work my way around, whatever. Yes, you could divide the board as the game gets more complex, but in this particular situation, I think you'd want one person doing them all, rather than everybody kind of reaching their hands in and pawing all over the place. That would be a fucking mess. And now you know, I complain about that, but now it's to the part that I actually don't like as opposed to these mechanistic aspects, which is having to make all these decisions. Can I build ships? Where do I want to build them? The order that I do that in and all that. This takes time, just like building the tech does. And I don't like thinking. I don't like having to switch hats and do all that kind of thought too many times. It's something that's, you know, it's in the nature of these more modern game designs where you're not like doing one player's turn all at once. And it provides for a more exciting play opposed. There's no question about that. But solo, it's kind of a pain in the ass. And also, even opposed, I have difficulty shifting to the, oh, I'm trying to calculate and figure things out at this point, and then I can sit back and hang out with my buddies and whatnot and chatter, and then I'm back in a position where I have to think and figure things out when I'm playing in an opposed game. But that's, you know, this is personal experience type stuff, but it may resonate with some of my viewers. I don't know. Yeah, the decision ends up easy. I spend time, I count the ships, see whether he's within his limit and everything, and then I realize, hey, he's got no money. He doesn't have to play here. So I worked through the first 3 players. The transhumanists had no money. Both the Syndicate and the True Path are tight on money, but they were able to launch an RE. I think that's worthwhile because I want to start collecting up tech and whatnot rather than just save money. Everybody's a little tight on money right now because it's been a long time since, you know, we collected money at the beginning of the game. We collect money when the Earth production comes up, but there's no other money at this stage in the game. But now we come to the Praetorians, and I wanted to point out they have an extra option. They could spend $3 to repair that damage. if they get to a significant amount of damage, it would cost $5 to repair all the damage. That's kind of a deal. It would cost $6 to repair 2 points of damage. I might as well have those lower values right now. There's no combat allowed. There's no so, you know, it doesn't seem like a terrible idea. I could head out here, but it looks like I'm already heading there with a ship. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm really up to. All right, but I wanted to point out that that option. I have a little bit of money, and like $7. It would cost me $5 to build an RE. Uh-oh, I gotta be careful. Cards are important because, for example, here REs cost 1 less, so I get $1 billion back. Never gonna remember to check the cards like right away. That's the kind of thing, and it got me in trouble in EU Pop, a game that had all kinds of game state on cards and counters and all kind of stuff, all tracks all over the place. Just too many different places to look to pay attention to stuff. At least here, you know, it's a little helpful, but my lighting's not that good over there and blah. And that's probably why I didn't notice over there is the lighting issue. But it is a pain in the ass to assess all the things that can affect you, because each card could conceivably affect you at any step in the game, right? And, okay, look. I have never played Advanced Civ except opposed. And the amount of cards with special abilities and everything that show up in that, and this is less right now, but the amount of cards with special abilities that show up in that ended up making me hate the game, even playing opposed. So it's not just a solo thing. It's, again, it's that, am I playing a card game where that's where all the information is contained? Like when I'm playing Dominion, I'm fine focusing on the cards. When I'm playing Magic the Gathering, I'm fine focusing on the cards as my kind of modifiers and everything. But when you start giving me a board and all kind of stuff that I'm trying to do, and then all these cards, you know, a fair set of cards that modify everything, that does create a pain point for me. And again, and not only do I have the cards, but I have the tech track, right? So this even extends the problem, because each little tech item on the tech track is also something which can, you know, affect any moment in play. So my chances of getting everything right are really low, like remembering all the modifiers and all the effects that are going on. I actually mind that less in a solo game, and it prepares me to play the game opposed, than I do in playing something straight opposed. So, you know, but I know Age of Renaissance, for example. I could never play, that had a similar type of situation where you have to keep track of all these modifiers and everything. I always came in dead last, or, you know, dead last among the people who were playing it all, attempting to do something serious. And I would try real hard, but I'm just so bad at remembering all the little shit that's going on. You know, and again, look, there are games out there. There's a lot of games that are like this, that use these kind of mechanisms. I just find them kind of hard. And if I'm focusing on one sort of, if there's like one time when all these modifiers take effect or something, okay. But if it's all over the place, if it's throughout the game, all kinds of little modifiers, and I have to search all over for them, yeah, that's a burden. That's a serious burden. Now you kind of have that in a game that I loved, which is good old Stellar Conquest here. Ooh, let's get enough light for it. Yeah, beautiful box cover, metagaming. Beautiful maps. I gotta get God's Fire out there sometime. That's what it is, right? Really horrible map that looks like somebody vomited on it. I've never played it. But that game uses this kind of mechanism, but it has a really, really tiny set of things. And they're sort of, they're basically limited. You have, each player has their own little chart that contains their tech, kind of like somewhere in this game. I don't think it's here. We have kind of a check-off thing somewhere here in one of these sets. Yeah, it's not here. Or if it is, it's somewhere I can't find it. Which means this is the last one we look at. Yeah. Yeah, this tech tracker. Okay, so if each player had one of these, and if it was complete, it would be helpful. But it's not complete. There are things on here that are not covered. These may be all the things that sort of, that there's multiple levels of, but they're not. So for example, survivability is not on here, right? Which is multiple things. You can hear your habitability of 60% or more, 80% or more. And then we got to keep looking to see if there's any. Okay, and then it goes to any system, 40% any system, right. That's not on here. So it's like, you know, it's a half-assed job of it. Now somebody could obviously make a more complete one. But you would still have that chart and your set of cards to deal with on a per nation basis. Stellar Conquest is not something that I played a lot solo. I didn't play it a lot opposed either, but it definitely is easier to cope with opposed because it has a single set of things that you have to look at. And yeah, I'm going off on this. I don't know why. I'm partway through my shipbuilding. I think it's because I hate doing any kind of thought and concentration. More along that, I have to do a fair amount of thought on each player in something like Europa Universalis, the original, not the EU. EU Pop is kind of like this, where it's all over the place because it's pulsed. But in Europa Universalis, I have to do a lot of thought with each player. What I would do is I'd sit down, look at everything for a player, and then because the decision-making process is a complicated enough spreadsheet that I have to work with, I can settle into it. It takes me 10 minutes to do a single player, 15 minutes, whatever, and then I can take a break and go away. Here, because it's so pulsed and everything's so interleaved, and again, this is modern game design rather than, you know, really old school stuff. But because there's an attempt to make the game more fun and more interactive, it ends up making it less fun and more of a burden for me. That kind of means I take shortcuts. So for example, the Consortium, they only have $4 million. They have a couple of these that are cheap. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, like I just said, yeah, you know, they don't want to do that. They might need that money. But what else can I do with the money? I certainly can't buy starports, so let's just put that aside. This would cost 9. I've got 7. It's a useful card. Maybe I want to buy it, maybe I don't. But, you know, I think I actually do want to buy an RE instead. Simply because the more you invest, the more you get, right? Just like an economic game, if I invest in another RE, I'm going to get more tech in the long run. So I'm going to get more value out of it if I put that out there. What does that $4 possibly do me? It might allow me to buy a tech that I wouldn't otherwise be able to buy, or a card I wouldn't otherwise be able to buy early, which is cool, but, and of course, by short-circuiting, I forgot to count the nation. So this is that little world thing It's hard for me to tell, like there's yellows, there's this color. Let me make sure that I didn't just buy too many ships. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, I'm okay. I think I have 4, you know, then I have to bump this to see what the flag is because the colors, you know, if you have difficulty discerning colors, and I don't feel like I have a lot, but boy, this is going to be painful. They try to give you the information you need on all the flags and everything, but I would not want to play this if I was seriously colorblind, right? Even just a red-green, because they would look grayscale, and this looks grayscale, and you'd basically be able to see very, very little at all. Givers here is kind of interesting, and I got to think about what their situation is. Where are they going? They're heading here. They're not going to be there anytime soon, but conceivably I could, I don't know. I'm going to be the first guy to build a base there. I'm not going to get a demand marker until then, so I think I want to hold off for that. I don't have a lot of money. I have room for a ship. This will show you the kind of effort. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5. So I could buy a ship. I have enough money I could buy either of these ships. If I bought this one, I could actually bring one more colonist over. But I kind of don't need that, because if I set a base up here and a trade good shows up, I'll be able to pick that up, at least in the near future. So I could build this marbles here, which, you know, gives me some combat capability. I don't see anything open right away that I could take advantage of. I think I'm going to hold my money. If I had an RE that was cheap, I would build it, but I just don't feel like the marbles is worth it. Although, it's not like I really care too much about these. The settlement growth, hey, that's a +1 on what? One settlement on one base, each growth phase. That just doesn't feel very big. Whereas, you know, a 3% malfunction rate reduction is big. But I don't really want to spend money on tech. Fine. If you don't invest, you don't get stuff. It's to combat. We can skip that analysis right now because, again, we're still in peace. Cargo transfer and trade, none of that going on yet. Well, supposedly, right? Somebody could, if they had a cargo ship, load shit up from Earth and send it somewhere in the hopes that they can make money off of it. And remember, these end up eventually becoming a pool that's too big to handle if you're not shipping stuff. So you kind of have to, you know, you might want to take a chance, and you could still dump it off at a base and leave it sitting there, I guess. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Transfer cargo and sell trade goods. I believe trade goods are cargo. They don't talk. Here we go. You can also unload trade goods at bases or Earth. Yeah, so you can store them on the board, which will help you. Although, again, you still have a max limit here. 10 at Earth, 12 everywhere. So, you know, it might be worth shipping things to where you're going to have a base or whatever with the hopes of being able to sell it. But this ship is not going to be able to do that. Other people sent colonists off, but they could have sent like a colonist and a trade good for, you know, maximum possible trade good sales. But we're not seeing any of that right now. But on movement, here's what we have to do. We basically have to look at each system for each player and decide, do they want to shift any of their ships? Now, for the most part, the answer is just going to be no. So I think we can still work with the, yeah, we'll just figure out who's leaving Earth right now. But in the broader scale of things, I'd be looking at the transhumanist. I have to hunt down and find their ships. Moving the markers so I can see what's what. I mean, I know blue is not them, right? Blue is pretty clear. I got one here. He's going to want to stay. I got one here. Okay, well, if he wanted to move, although he probably still wants to explore, so screw it. But if he wanted to move, then I would have to go look over there and start figuring out what his movement rate is and whatever, and then only when I had all that information would I know I want to move. And I keep looking, and I don't really care about any of these. I don't have one in Earth, so he doesn't do anything. But now I got to make a decision, and honestly, I'm not going to worry about that whole process with all the other systems right now, because sometimes you just have to take shortcuts, and you just have to say, look, the chance that I want to move one of the ships on one of these other systems is really, really low. So let's just look at the Earth one. And where do I want to go with this? And that becomes a, hey, what's my tech? Is there anything interesting I can do with it? What's my directive? I want to survey Sirius. Where was Sirius? Because I won't ever remember. It's down here. What's my range? My RE range is 2. Earth can get to Sirius. That seems like an exceptionally good plan. Okay, so we're doing for the first time. I'm going to sail out here because I have a range of 2. I have a movement rate of 2. So to go 2 spaces, 8.7 light years, that's going to cost me a 4 counter. That's not that bad, right? And maybe we get lucky and we fulfill our directive. And that would be really cool if we remember what our directive is when that time comes. Again, lots of game state in hidden places. Probably not a problem, or nowhere near as big a problem when you're playing opposed. Rivers have an interesting problem. And remember, you can't redirect ships. This ship was directed to go over to Lalande. It's arriving in a couple of turns. No one on their own, oh no, here's somebody who's going to resolve it. Okay, yeah, because there's an anomaly that I kind of can't do anything about. And no one who's there can do anything about it, but there is somebody shipping out there, so that's of interest. What's my habitability situation? It is, whatever this is, 60%. Might be of some interest to me. Don't really care. And then my multiplier for CV movement, I have to look that up. That is times 4 because I have this. Is this a fast ship? It is. That'll drop it down to times 3. That's not bad. So I think I want to go to the best place that I can explore. What do I care about? I care about trading. Trading means that I want my area to produce something, but that doesn't matter too, like I can't really help that along. So then I look here and let's see, this is a 5 right now, this is a 6 right now. What do I care about? I'm low on all techs. Is there anything there? Probably doesn't matter. It's not going to get there in time. So yeah, it's pretty much a choice between these. So if I look at these guys, there's a couple of 3s here and a 1. And here there's a 2 and 2 1s. I actually think this is the better place to go for obtaining more tech and successes. Even though this one's open. And there's going to be more turns here. Oh, it's just so hard. It's so hard to figure out where your best chance is, right? Because these guys are each going to get 3 turns. This guy is going to get 1 turn at trying to resolve something here. Whereas if I go here, we're looking at 2 turns and 1 turn for each of these. Yeah, let's go here. I guess. I don't know. It's really hard trying to determine what your best tech choice is. Okay, that's going to put me in exploration. I am going to break in this middle of a turn. I was only supposed to be up here for like, you know, like the fight I was in could last no more than 20 minutes. I don't know why I thought I might be able to do a lot in 20 minutes, but I had the feeling of, oh, let's come up and play a turn. Yeah, this game takes longer than 20 minutes a turn, for me, at least. Some of it being that, you know, I stop and chatter a lot. Which, before I got to doing videos, I would play games solo, and I would figure out about how long it took to take a turn. And, you know, would come to my decisions as to how long would this game take opposed, you know? And maybe I'd add a little bit of time, but not a hell of a lot. I'd add the time for explaining rules and everything. And then, you know, I'd bring it to the table, and between, you know, just sociability and whatnot, and people not necessarily understanding the rules or getting the game very well, and having to stop and explain in the midst again and again or whatever. You know, something like this, I would say, oh, we can probably get through a century in a nice day easily, right? But like, then we'd play, and we'd get like 2 or 3 turns, and like, okay, and you know, they're the easiest turns, right? Now I see that more when I have to explain everything I'm doing, when I have to chatter more and whatnot. The game that I remember being sort of the worst about being able to judge how long it was going to take, or one of the games that was the very worst, was Empires of the Middle Ages. Because once you get it and understand the game, it flows really, really incredibly fast. Okay? I mean, you can easily pop off a century in that in a reasonable, you know, in a single setting or whatever. But invariably, whatever group I would be in, there'd be a couple of players who just didn't ever get how the game worked and what they were supposed to do. And they would spend so much time trying to figure out what they're going to do and whatnot. And you really don't have a lot of information. But somehow the way the cards, flipping the cards over to generate results and what their chances were and everything. So I remember, like, you know, there would be a couple of people who were relatively capable, who would pick it up pretty easily, you know, who were kind of familiar with wargaming type things more and whatnot, because I would usually bring it to a mixed group. And then there was like one guy who really got it and was better than anybody else except me at like being able to just get, hey, you just make your decisions, just do it. And he was very good at that in everything. But then there would invariably be 1 or 2 people who are just like really agonizing over the decisions in the game. And, you know, I'm usually one of those people. Again, the Age of Renaissance type thing, I felt myself agonizing over decisions, and people would be like, just pick one, you know, it doesn't matter. But it did. Like, if I play it that lightly, and that was kind of the thing, when I did play that lightly, that's why I would do so terribly in it. But like, there's not that kind of strategizing in Empires of the Middle Ages. Anyway, starting off the exploration phase, and there are multiple different things you can do in this phase, so, but I'm going to work system by system. It just is easier for me to cope with. Well, the Shining Path got some good results, one of which is good enough to cause a thing, a flip, but we lost both of our ships in doing this. And now let me think. We draw a planet. Let me try to figure out where the planets are. They don't have anything special, do they? System habitability is plus 20. Oh, I forgot about that. So yeah, that one goes. I got to constantly look up in the rules where I get things. I get an IP only last survey, not for drawing a world, but I do have a chance of finding an anomaly, which I don't. Okay, so that is that system. Onward. Nothing going on here, but on this one, we got a ship that can do multiple things. So I've got to kind of declare what the hell's going on. I can't deal with the anomaly. I could do research, because this is a research ship. Hard to see, but it is. But I think I just want to do normal exploration. Had an RE destroyed over here, but we did find another planet for the Starfarers. This number is getting quite low. Somebody gets an IP when it's completely resolved. By the way, I'm again going to gripe about these letterings. Again, they're probably they're supposedly from Star Trek, of all places. But again, kind of becoming common. But, I mean, let's look at them. Earth-like is M class. Like, there's a letter classing for stars. And that is also kind of weird. Right? Like K is I don't know. Anyway. O, oceanic, great. L for marginal. H for arid. P for polar, okay, great. J for gas giant, I can kind of see that. Although they aren't using G, so whatever. D for asteroid belt. You'd think A is asteroid belt or arid. No. A is volcanic. E for Earth-like moon. K for barren. I mean, it's just... I don't know if there's a bunch of letters that aren't being used, and that's part of it, that it like goes from A up to P at least, and that these are just an assortment of them. But the way you kind of feel about it in the game, knowing that it's from Star Trek, I'm like, yeah, it must be using like the Klingon alphabet or language here. I have no fucking clue. But it's so crazy to like letter things in ways that, I mean, it's essentially random. System, we have a couple of successes happening, but this is interesting. This number is at 2. When they're done with surveys, it's done in initiative order, which in this case, so that guarantees that you're going to get an exploration chance, more likely if you get in here. But what you don't get is the IP bonus for being the last and draw trade goods and all that. So this is the first time we've seen this happen. So let's go through it. Let's see, who do we have? We have Consortium and Praetoriums. Consortium has to go first. You kind of wish, like again, if initiative was always good, this is something baked into the system, and there's no way to tell, is it always good, is it always bad, whatever. But if it was always good, you would get to take your rewards in the order you want it, based on your initiative. But instead, the Consortium is going to get this. They get a planetary draw, which might replace one of the planets there, because those are under 12s. We get a 2. That's not going to work. Do we throw that out or not? Yeah, it just goes back in. Okay. We make the anomaly check. Looking to see if there's anything special going on here. No anomaly. If he had finished things, he would get more demand markers than other people all get. And now we go to the Praetorians, who finish it off. They get to keep this. I don't know what to do with it. They don't care about it, but the fact that they get to keep it, so this is really weird, right? Most of the directives seem like something that's a goal, but the fact that this is a mnemonic device towards directives creates a weird situation that I really don't like. If I draw a directive that says complete surveys in 2 planets, I have succeeded in that already. It really feels like these directives are not well designed, right? I'm trying to express what the problem here is, but let me finish this up and then I'll get to it. We get to draw another planet. Again, I got to check to see if there's anything funky. Draw an extra fleet improvement. Your bases can't be rated. I get one that's higher, but I can't place this because you can only place a world with up to 12 population. Okay? So you're not going to hide a really valuable world in a system. Like, if there's a really valuable world in one of these spaces, or if there's no really valuable world in those spaces once they're all filled, you're not going to be able to find something else. I make the anomaly check for him. He gets one. We got a lot to do on this system, okay? That's going to give him an IP. He finds nanobot swarm. This is going to take an 8 military to deal with. We already have 1 here. It prevents bases and E's. I don't know what E's are. No exploration. Oh shit. I did exploration here. That anomaly is problematic. I gotta change. I can't fix what I've done. I can't go back. But yeah, I forgot about that. That there are anomalies that prevent exploration. We did the planet. We drew the last world planet. So we completed the final survey. Where is that dealt with? When you complete the last survey, get an IP, keep the exploration marker. Now, that exploration marker has multiple uses. And this is the thing. That exploration marker is worth victory points at the end of the game. That's one reason you keep it. But, you know, let's do some more. Also draw a demand marker. If the system doesn't already have one, draw 2, pick 1. I need another bag for this. Use the trade good pool for this. Trade goods are actually less likely right now. So we'll put these over here. I went and looked for other things, but I don't know. I'm really taxed as to bags. So I draw 2 and I pick 1. So I've got fauna and ore. What do I know about this? Nothing really. I got gas giants here. Neither one's very likely. Who am I? I am the Praetorians. The Praetorians are colonizing this, of all places, which is polar. That's ice. I am going to guess that ore is the better one. Now, I could put this up with its picture or the word. The picture is more appealing. The word is more understandable. I'm going to put the picture for now. We'll put fauna back in here. We'll get those guys over into there, and then I'll come back and chat some more about other stuff. By the way, Raid is playing itself, although it's probably done with whatever the hell it's doing. I feel like this pool I could actually reach into and just shuffle around, much as I do with the cups. But trade goods is going to be something that comes up from one of those chits. Let's get back to the directive and this. So some of the directives tell you things like, let's find the one. Earn 2 tech markers using research ships. There's no way you can mnemonically keep that information with the components in the game. It feels like something that I need to do. It feels like something I should be able to do over multiple turns, right? The way it's worded and whatnot. That feels like that was the intention of the directive there. But I've got no way to record that. But somewhere this has become a goal of mine. And again, the way the directives are designed, they feel like this is what you need to do. Not you need to have done this, but this is what you need to do, right? Go out and search out and try to do that. That's what it feels like their intention was. But what it actually means, according to the designers ruling on it, and I may throw this out and go with some kind of number marker or something that players can keep. What it means from the designer's point of view is, because I have no mnemonic way of doing that, I have to get them both at the same time. Now, I can't do it with one ship. His answer for that is if it happens in the same turn. I don't even know if I can remember that, right? Because I'm scattered all over the place doing stuff. I'm going to need some kind of mnemonic to remember over the course of a single turn even. Which is why I'm tempted to go with what I think the directive is actually designed to be, even though the components of the game don't support it. Let's look at this one then. Not this one. I mean, this one is do something. And when you do it, you can turn it in and you get the advantage, right? Just like with this one, if you completed it, you would get the advantage. But it kind of, if it was meant to be in one turn, you would think it would say in one turn, right? I really don't feel like that's the case. This one, there's things that say, I don't know if I have any that anybody kept. This one's complete a survey at Vega. Okay. Obviously, I can't remember if I've done that. I can't go back in the past and figure out, did I do a survey of Vega? This is a very easy one. I do it. It fits the model perfectly. I've got a goal. I go out, I finish that goal, and I get the reward. And in fact, the rules are specific about this. If Vega is already completely surveyed, that one doesn't count. It gets removed from the game and you get a new draw. Let's take a look at this. Earn 2 tech markers using research ships. That's the one we just talked about. Sell 2 trade goods in Earth. That's something I conceivably could do at once, but again, I don't see that it's terrible that I would do it in multiple slips. Like this one, there's no mnemonic for it. Fine. Again, sell 2 trade goods. Complete a survey. Yeah. So there's ones that say, and I kind of, do I have directives here? I want to try to find one of the ones that I want to highlight here, because this is where it was. Resolve a combat anomaly of 5 difficulty or greater. Okay, you would not have an anomaly chip for you, so you'd have to do that at the time. You don't get to keep the anomaly. The anomaly, generally at least, stays on the board, or often stays on the board as some kind of bonus. So that one you would have to do at the time. Earn $9 billion in cash from base production. Presumably happens at once. I'm looking for the one that these are responsible for. Terraform a world, again, you wouldn't have a mnemonic device. I don't know. I believe there was one. I mean, I can keep pawing through and looking. Let me turn this off and I'll try to find the one that I'm talking about. But basically, the answer for you can't remember, you know, what you need to do. Oh, I know what it was. It was like complete 2 surveys at a. I don't remember. I'll get to it in a bit. I can't find an example, and I've looked through all of them in the directives. The only other thing I can think of that it could be is over here with the titles, which might not be as problematic. Like having to do a directive all at once isn't that terrible, although earn 2 tech markers using research ships is going to be tough, right? But hey, you got to do this in 1 turn? Okay, you know, that's not that bad, I guess. Of everything I looked at, this is the only one that wouldn't be resolved in a single system, in a single, you know, in a single phase sort of thing. It's the only one that is sort of problematic for that. So now I'm going to consider the titles, because something triggered this conversation where he said, yes, you're holding these so you know that you have them. And I may have been confusing, because titles may be something significantly different. If we look at the titles we have here, roll a 1 while researching, okay, you would have to buy this immediately. Have 6 escalation markers, that's easy. You just have to have them at the time. Resolve a science anomaly or event, yeah, that's at the time. Be attacked by a player who has more escalation, again, at the time. You still have to pay the IPs. Own 3 exploration markers from last completed survey. This is the hard one. This is the one that I know I spoke out against as, wow, that's really hard. 3 exploration markers from last completed survey. That means you got 3 of these chits, I think. What are exploration markers? Are they defined anywhere? I thought they were the tech chits. See, these are tech markers, not exploration markers. There's nothing. Okay, so if these are exploration markers, you would never get 3 from the last. If you own 3 exploration markers, you would not get them from the last. I think this is the one that it comes from. You would not get this from the last completed survey. But I think if you've got 3 of these and you just finished a survey. So what's completing a survey? Let's look at the definition of that. Because I'm not sure. Completing a survey is this. So the way I read this is you've gotten 3 of these over the course of the game and you completed a survey, and it doesn't matter whether or not you got an exploration chip from that survey. That's how I'm reading that. Because it just says own. It doesn't say complete a survey and own 3 exploration chips. Or no, it doesn't. Complete a survey isn't the word for it. The word for it is complete a last survey. Oh, no, that's exactly what it's saying. Own 3 exploration ships from last completed survey. Where I read last completed survey, I think they mean something like English, right? Just how English is written. You complete, you own them after the last. That's not what it is. It's this, which is not a defined, you know, it's not like there's a defined glossary. Last completed survey is this. It's when you complete the last survey of a system. So you can buy that directive anytime you have 3 of these. And that makes sense again. So everything actually works and makes sense in his discussion. The problem is, first of all, there's the necessary sparseness of what's written on these counters. And I may have gone into this all before, at least in part, because it just keeps hitting, right? You give me too sparse a description of what I can do because of components, because of whatever. The rules had better cover those cases. That's still not optimal. That's the problem that I had with Clash of Sovereigns, was like, there were all these special case things that had to be, covered in the rules. But there should be some sort of distinguishment to indicate not just the words. Again, I don't want to. From last completed survey, actually what it should say, you know what? This would be fine if survey was plural. It would confuse the shit out of me, but I think I'd be able to figure it out. But there's just this tendency, first of all, in the rules itself, not being clearly written, being poorly organized in a weird sort of way. That weird sort of way isn't terrible. I think it would work and make sense, but with the amount of ambiguities baked into these rules. Now, I just do not remember the first game having this issue. And I hope to hell, given that it's the same designer, that Fatal Alliances doesn't have this problem. Compass Games has a real problem that they built up over, the first 15 years or so of their existence. And I'm dealing with the rules for one of the notorious games for having really, really bad rules. They reached a period about the time when Stellar Horizons 1 came out, Balance of Power, a few other games, where they really started nailing down the rules and getting things right. And now they seem to have slipped into the, we fixed our problem, people aren't complaining as much. Let's go back to those bad practices again. I don't know. But their rules have really taken a downturn in the past few years. I've looked at a few of their games that are more recent, because I went from, I'm going to wait and try to pick something up in the aftermarket. In the case of that game over there, what the fuck is it? It's the Valmy Nations in Arms. It's not Napoleon in Europe or whatever. The other one that was really problematic as well, and from closer to the decent time, I think. I think that's like 2012. But this was a second edition, not a second edition, a second printing, supposedly with a lot of errata included. It's still a problem. It's still a big problem. But that one was notorious for being problematic, whereas they came to a point where they started getting the rules better, and now it's like they're just drifting back. It's like I don't know, maybe they had somebody good on the staff for a little while who managed, maybe they had a couple of good developers or whatever, and they got rid of them. Whatever they did, they really are back to their old tricks, in a lot of ways. They have issues with components too, but I'm less bothered by components in this game, although I do complain about, how little space there is on these things and stuff like that. That is problematic, but look, cards could have been used. Would be a lot easier. A deck of cards is a lot easier than all these fucking pools, right? And there's no reason that these wouldn't be cards. There's no reason that these couldn't be cards, although shuffling a 6-pile deck, I don't care about. That's not appealing. But the titles, there's so few titles, they could have made them into cards. would be a little bit more space to word things on. But I don't know the price point for an individual card versus a counter of this shape and whatnot. They seem to be about the same from what I see in games, but I don't want to, I'm not like trying to say, oh, give me just more expensive components or anything like that. No. And if the game can be made at a cheaper cost with cheaper components that are not as good, that's okay. I at least understand the publisher's decision in those cases. But I think it's about the same price. But who knows? Maybe they had space for these and decide, although there's enough of them that it feels like they would have to do another counter sheet or whatever. And cards have gotten really cheap. So I don't know. Where am I? I just did everything I need to do on this system. System has been completed. That does not create any production. Production is only created by players during the production thing. All it creates is this demand marker, which honestly, yeah, I need to do these like this. I can't read them by picture. All right, we'll continue after that long digression. But again, a lot of what I do in these games is try to point out where the pain points are going to be, and I hope that the pleasure comes through as well. But I pretty strongly can tell you, buy the first one. If you have the first one and you like it and you're willing to tackle this, yeah, sure. But the first one's much more fun. Notice something here, continuing on my rant, that is a very disturbing step. I looked through the rule books. There's no credits. Okay, look. Andrew Rader designed it, whatever. I wanted to go look to see, hey, I don't remember noting when I was going through the rules, there's no developer listed, or design and development are by the same person, or there's not a big playtest list here. There are no credits whatsoever. What the fuck does that mean? Well, it probably means that they saw it as more important to put space on the back. Look, these are really useful. Space is not. Are there places where credits could have been given? I don't know. What's this? That's the player guide, which is fucking useless. To me. A lot of charts here. Discussions of the scenarios. This is, again, I think this was added late. There's really not a lot of room. I mean, you expect it to the back. I flipped through everything and I could not find it. How big a deal is it to players usually? Probably not much. Probably not much. Who the hell cares? It's nice to tell people, to recognize people for their efforts. But I'm very much of the worry that this is actually a game that did not even have a developer or playtesters. That's got to be my view when they don't recognize them. Wouldn't be a big deal if they were just unrecognized. Hey, too bad. Sucks to be you. Maybe it's on a website or something. But when there's this much problem with a rule set, and with like component clutter and whatnot, it's one of the first things I do is I go look. I see who was involved in this. Do I usually trust them? Is it a new name? Well, now there's no name. And my conclusion is nobody fucking did the work. Or nobody wanted their name associated with it. That's really scary. Like, I could see the developer and the playtesters saying, look, it very seldom happens, like, that a developer's like, I don't want my name in that. Right? It does occasionally. Playtesters, so often the developer ignores what the playtesters give them that, like, they usually deserve their credit. Whether you don't know how much effort they put in, but they usually deserve the credit they get. If I'm looking at something like Decision Games, which has a really, really bad record, I've talked to playtesters from there who are like, yeah, we noted these problems. They didn't do shit about them. It's like, well, why do you playtest if you're not going to fix things? I don't know. But yeah, this is a very troubling thing to me as sort of a semi-insider at points in my time, in terms of, like, at least talking to people who are involved in stuff, and online, we all sort of are now. It's a small hobby. It's not like it used to be. I almost always look at the list to see, hey, who do I recognize on here or whatever. And when that's gone, when there's one name on the game, and that's it, and it's used as a selling point. I remember when Eric Lee Smith was used as a selling point, and it turned out on a game that had kind of problems. I honestly think that when a game highlights the designer so much, they may be covering other things. Anyway, nothing against Andrew Rader. You can't design a game on your own. And when there are no credits and there are problems, that's where I look, is no one was assigned to develop this. You can't develop and design your own game. Play, nothing interesting happened here. We go over here. By the way, these can be replaced. And when they're replaced, they're removed from the game, which makes them different from everything else. We got another player who has something interesting they could do. They could do research with the ship. It's pretty shitty, so I'm definitely better off doing exploration. There's two players who have that opportunity. The Praetorians also have a ship, a damaged ship. There's a little bit more reason to do it with a damaged ship, because I've already got a damage on my ship, right? But I'm kind of looking to accumulate more damage so that I can repair it for half the price, which is actually worth something. There's no combat right now. There's no anomaly there I have to deal with, so it's not that bad. But yeah, there might be an argument to be said, I don't want to risk, if I was like a point from being destroyed, I don't want to risk destroying a CV. I'll go do research instead on this planet, and I would get almost nothing anyway. Way through, we already have one success. We came up here. He got a CV. CVs are likely to get malfunctioned, so he gets another marker there. That means he saves $1 if he repairs it next turn for half price. But he also got a chip. We'll put that there. So there's another possibility of a world that's, it's going to be completed. Nobody's going to get an IP. Like, if this guy finds something, let's see if he does. He's at 246. He is the Pyrads. We're going to make up names for all of these. He doesn't find anything, and he's destroyed. This one was destroyed as well, but this one, I can get out of there early. Ooh, what a deal. What a deal. A whole engineering point. Okay, so now we go to the survey order, and we've got Praetorians and Starfarers. Starfarers have to go first because they're earlier in the initiative, which means they don't get as much of a bonus, perhaps. Look for a planet. There's still a planet slot open, so that's what they find. Ooh, riches. Okay. And we get an IP. We're beginning to collect up enough we could buy Chancellery or whatever. We get an anomaly check, which we're good at. Nope. We get the bio. We get the engineering, which I hadn't drawn yet. You know, this was worth it, right? Okay, and then we go to these guys who get to draw a world because there's a no world space, which could be removed. It is. We found, what, a gas giant? Didn't notice that there. That is gone from the game at this point. This is, who is it, the Praetorians? Ooh, that's two they've found. See what I mean about the convex, concave, they're different. We found the gas giant, we did that. We get an IP for finishing it, right? Right? I don't remember. There's all these little niggly things, right? Really, really annoying. That, you know, sounds like it's raining. I don't know. When you complete the last survey, you get an IP. Yeah. It feels like I already got enough things from this, didn't I? And I picked the world, right? I did not do the anomaly check. So many little checks and stuff. Now, I have the special anomaly? No. Somebody had one. Maybe they didn't buy it. Maybe it's over here. Like, I remember seeing it, but now I don't see it anywhere. They do not get the anomaly. They're done. And I haven't done this one. You can see the exploration segment's expensive in terms of time. There's nothing here. All the ships are gone. Excellent. Okay, that means we go to a very expensive, in terms of time period, the develop tech and cards. I got a break for that, because, yeah, whatever the fuck I was doing in Raid is long done. I did something else, but it's like a 5-minute run. So, disappear though. What I was saying about Compass, at one point or another, they had a really terrible reputation. I bought a few of their games in that period. They deserve the bad reputation. But then there were some things that were just too interesting to pass up that I got. Stuff like Balance of Powers. And they did a good job on them. Stellar Horizons one, the first one. They did a good job on them. And overall I was like, they may be improving. Europe in Turmoil had some issues, but they were okay, I guess. And then that lasted for, you know, it felt like I had, I know what was going well was the No Peace Without Spain series. But, you know, that's a series, and it's a fairly simple one, so, but it came out, it feels like it came out, the games from it were coming out relatively easy and well regarded in terms of their capacity, you know, that the rules weren't an absolute fucking mess. And I don't know if these are an absolute fucking mess. Most things can be reasoned out, There are some ambiguities. There are some places where, like, you could definitely read it a different way. And if you're me, you're almost certainly going to read it a different way, like that, last completed survey or whatever. But maybe if you can get into the mind of the designer, you can start to say, yeah, and in a lot of cases, I had to puzzle out rules a lot more than I expected to, and had to use, sort of, well, it could be this way, it could be that way, but it has to be this way because of these other places in the rules that it says X, Y, and Z. So they're not an absolute mess, but they are far too sparse and a little too sloppy in some ways. Sloppy's not really the word. They're far too sparse, and sometimes there are wordings and whatnot that just are not absolutely clear. So this is not, rules-wise, as bad as some of what Compass puts out, but it's lacking that sort of developer role, it feels like. Or else the developer was way too close to the game. Like, it is possible that, like, a designer and a developer can work together. Oh, GMT made this mistake. Everything by Bruce Harper, there's basically no developer for. He looks at it as the community of A World at War is his developer. And that's too insular. They're all too close to the game. The developer has to be, and this is why the designer and developer can't be the same person. The developer has to be separated from the game to a certain degree. They cannot be eating, living, and breathing the game in the same way. They have to be able to understand when it goes out to playtesters and playtesters say, I don't get this. Not to say, oh, well, it looked clear to me, but rather, okay, if you don't get it, there's a problem, right? And maybe one stupid person like me is not indicative of a problem, but if enough stupid people are out there, it's not the people anymore. But yeah, the last couple games I've gotten from them, and I'm having trouble remembering, but more recent things, it looks like they've turned back to their old ways. And it's like they had become if I'm interested in the subject, I order or in the design, if I like the designer or whatever, they were auto orders. They are no longer that. And now that I don't buy things on the secondary market as much, like almost at all, they're becoming less and less of. I'm less and less likely to buy stuff from Compass. Like, I had started trusting them the way I trust GMT. GMT is losing my trust. This is cool, right? I've got enough fucking games, don't I? I've got enough fucking games that I haven't done videos on. I can stop buying, but to some extent, there's sort of I kind of miss the thrill of getting new games and whatnot. But yeah, Compass lost my trust a few years ago. GMT is losing my trust. The last couple of years have been really bad. They've just, and their customer service decision to switch to, hey, you want replacement counters and whatnot? I'll tell you what, we'll put together a pack of all the stuff we fucked up, and we'll sell it to you for a couple of bucks. As opposed to, look, we fucked up, we'll send you a replace. We'll send you updates and whatnot. They decided they couldn't do that. And that, I feel, is directly attributable to Gene not like managing the company as much anymore. He still sends out the newsletter, so I don't know, man. maybe he comes back or whatever horrible terrible things that he did or whatever that have nothing to do with running a game company. You know, I mean, to some extent, just fucking excuse people for a little bit, right? You like Michael Jackson songs? You don't like the pedophilia? Don't listen to songs about pedophilia by Michael Jackson, you know? But, yeah. I mean, I can understand not wanting to support someone who's does stuff that you don't like, but I don't know. I still like Jerry Lee Lewis. All right. Yeah, it's break time. I just I get on these tangents, man. The whole cancel culture type stuff, right? There was a cancel culture on the left, and a number of people have, you know, maybe not for, you know, there's certain things, yeah, it makes sense that you would cancel someone for. But, you know, somebody has certain political views, you shouldn't be like, oh, I can't deal with them. Well, you know what the funny thing is? It's turned on its head. It's the other way around now. It's like it's the right who runs away from people more at this point, and it is more into canceling than the other side. And yeah, it's just it's like the fever broke to some extent on the left. They realized, yeah, this is horrible. We can't do this. Of course, the right is willing to deal with human traffic, at least certain portions of it, with human trafficking and, you know, think about Andrew Tate here and child prostitution and stuff like that, as long as it's from someone who's saying the things they want to deal with. But, yeah. Back to play again. And again, I attempted to throw the wrong colored chips into the wrong cup, which is how I really think it happened. Wow. It started raining hard. Yeah, apologize for going into political shit. I should try to keep that out of the gaming stuff, but, you know, I mean, part of it is, I think about, like, Dean Essick, and the fact that, like, he and I, absolutely different political stances, lifestyle ways, everything. But I love his games. I love his insight. I think that's important. Whereas now, you know, someone with my views, who's not really doing anything except expressing them sometimes, has people who apparently found me valuable enough to subscribe to and whatnot, to unsubscribe and make a big deal out of it, right? Just because I posted some occasional political commentary. Not like I'm out there raping children, you know? Money is kind of tight, and people, so far everybody's been picking something up. But yeah, money's tight. Technology, there's a fair amount for a lot of people. Givers look a little short. But you know, when you're short, like the pirates were, you can pick something up that's cheap. Everybody seems to have enough tech that they can get something if they want to keep their cards and if they want to keep moving. The way the thing is structured, I have difficulties, right? You know, difficulties keeping track of what's going on. So with the Praetorians, I'm like, oh, I can get this for $5. Now I'm already up there, and I had to fish my money out, or my chips out again. And then stuff like this, it's getting crowded. It's too cluttered to keep track of everything. I don't know. I had this problem with the original too. Get down towards the end, the Starfarers. I want to keep cards. I like this a lot. I haven't bought either card. This one, I don't really care about. Certainly not good. Certainly not that big a deal early on. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. My points, though, the only place where I have a shit ton of points, well, I have a shit ton of these. 9 of them. What does it cost me for Chancellor? 15? Yeah. So I'm making a run for that, which is, I think, a powerful advantage. I seem to remember really liking it. Draw 1 influence at the start of each turn. I'm guessing that's 1 point. Because again, it's not a pool, but again, it says draw. It should say collect or something like that because they're money, essentially. I have 11 bio. Now, I could buy this that I don't really care about, right? I can go over here and I could buy a reduced CV malfunction. So the bio's not a bad one. I got nothing cheap. I could, of course, improve where I can settle. I'm trying to do what? I'm trying to survey Vega. This is a 60%. I think 60% is okay, and I'm heading there. I think that's what it says under here, yeah. So I'm okay with that. That'll put me within range. I don't know what I was looking at. Yeah, I was looking at the consortium's points because I was like, oh, I got to get engineering stuff and everything. Yeah, I think I got confused as to the points because the bio looks like the way I want to go. Which bio? I don't know yet. I was looking at, hey, let me try to get an IP this way. But it's cheaper for me to improve my malfunction rate. That's probably the best one I can do. I could go up to better habitability. I can't go to these because they have other arrows entering in. Others have an interesting choice. They're low on tech. Do I care about my cards? Settlement growth, I think it's nice. Siberia Robotics, probably I'm not going to go with that because we're getting later in the game, but maybe I need robot things. So, you know, I don't know. How much do I care if I hold things? But on the other hand, I can get stuff cheaply, which is always advantageous. This only cost me 5 to go to, but maybe I want to discard. Oops, I forgot to reshuffle. I'm always forgetting to do it the turn that I throw the cards away. I'm going to delay a tech purchase. I have some money, but not a whole lot. And I was at kind of the point where, oh, I could go here for 5, but I have 6. I could throw a buck in. I definitely don't want to throw that in. I think it makes the most sense for me to just take a pass here. This is the same kind of card I threw away that I was more interested in. This one's definitely worse than the one I had, but that's okay. And that puts us to the end of a turn. This video is probably quite long already as we get near here. So let's send this up. There's going to be a lot of long videos for this game, I have the feeling. A lot of long videos, especially if I take these side trips.